Hi, I'm Ben, welcome to my book corner, and this is my reading wrap up for the week beginning the 30th of October 2023. Hi, I'm Ben, welcome to my book corner. I've been outside for like 10 minutes and it's the UK and it's doing what the UK does best and throwing it down, so that's why I look like I've been dragged backwards through a hedge, so I do apologise. This is a quick reading roundup, whatever, for the week beginning 30th of November. This was originally going to be an edited vlog for the whole week, but because I'm smart, I deleted all my footage and it's not recoverable. So that was a good idea on my part, but never mind. So we have 9 titles to get to. We have a number of audiobooks in there. We've got 4 audio, 5 read books. I'm going to do the read books first because I really want to talk about one of the books that I listened to this week. So first of all, going through, and also I should also mention a lot of these books are from various Amazon exclusive collections. So 4 of them are from the Creature Feature collection, all available from Kindle Unlimited, Far Reaches collection, and the Forward collection as well. So that's what a lot of these books are from, all included on Kindle Unlimited. I do actually recommend checking these out. I'm going to be checking out quite a few more in the next few weeks because I've really enjoyed a lot of these. So first one I took a look at was by Grady Hendrix, an author that I've not read before. That was Ankle Snatcher, and this is the shortest of the books. I think it's 31 pages, if that. And this is basically a story of the monster under your bed, and it's very, very clever. It sets something up right at the start and sort of turns it on its head and then turns it back again. It's really well done. It is quite creepy, some of the imagery in here as well. So I'll definitely be checking out some Grady Hendrix stuff when I do my next horror month. But that then got eclipsed by the following book that I read. So again, not an author that I've read before, and that's Jason Mott, and this is The Best of Luck. And this one's dark, like properly dark. It's a little bit longer, I think it's about 50 pages. And it's basically the idea of how does luck balance out between individuals, and can anything tip that scales. And with these being creature features, you kind of know that there's something else going on here. It's really gruesome and really dark. It does kind of turn everything on its head once again at the end in a way that I kind of didn't see coming, which I really appreciated. But I really liked this. It was a really interesting take on the sort of the leprechaun idea, bestowing luck onto people. Really good. I then moved on to In Bloom by Tremblay, another author that I've not read. Most of these are authors that I've not read. And so this is a bit of a weird one because of all the stories, this probably has the most potential to be sort of rooted in actual fact. But that being said, it isn't totally clear whether what is happening is really happening or there is something supernatural going on. Of the stories in the collection that I've read so far, this is probably the weakest of the bunch. But I've also enjoyed the writing style of this one more than the others, and I'm really interested to read more of Tremblay's stuff. I know that he has books in at least one of the other collections that I'm going to be working through. I'm really excited by that because I really like the writing style here. I just think it would suit a longer title than what this one was. And the last of the creature feature books that I've read, I've still got 2 to work through, was Joe Hill's The Pram. This is exceptionally creepy. It's a story about grief with a supernatural twist there. It's a stronger story than In Bloom. Because of some of the stuff that's going on here, I actually found this quite an uncomfortable read. And, you know, it's meant to be an uncomfortable read, but because of some personal stuff, I struggled a little bit more with this one. But proper creepy feeling to it. Couple move out to a farmhouse, like in the middle of nowhere, for an almost Amish-like community nearby. There's lots of folklore going on, ley lines, all that sort of stuff. And this couple are dealing with some grief. And the story is about him basically being given like this old sort of moulding pram to take his groceries home from the local store because he didn't have his car with him and he decided to walk because it was a nice day. And how stuff fed into that pram and fed up from the ley lines is really, really clever. Well worth a read. It's just some of the imagery here was difficult for me personally. And then the final of the books that I read this week was Slow Time Between the Stars by John Scalzi. So I've read Scalzi before. One of my 5-star reviews is actually Old Man's War, which I really enjoyed. The last Scalzi book I read I had some issues with. This is really, really interesting. It's not going to be one for everyone. This is quite high concept. The idea of this one is that a satellite has been sort of sent into space with some total of human knowledge in it, as well as various different things, so it can seed planets for human habitation potentially in the future, and it has a built-in AI. And the AI is not fully enabled until it hits the heliosphere of the solar system, and it finally leaves our solar system proper. And then it begins to gain awareness. Now, not emotion, which is the important thing, because emotion is a chemical reaction which the machine can't do. But it becomes aware of what it is and the flaws in its design. And it's designed to be a self-perpetuating machine, basically, until it finds sort of the target world to seed. And the story takes place over millions and millions of years in the end, as it slowly but surely it realises that Earth is now behind it and is no longer any use to it, as it goes and investigates all these various different systems that it's been programmed to go to with Earth-like suns, and the various things that it finds there and how it continually stops, and how time has so little meaning to this sort of conscious construct. Really, really smartly written. I did really enjoy it, but again, I think some people will find that really dry. Well, that then fetches me to my audiobook. First off, Britney Spears, The Woman in Me. I am not a massive biography person. As a rule of thumb, I tend not to read them too often. This was good for what it was. It felt a bit rough in places, which I think is a deliberate editing choice. And, you know, when I was leaving high school, that was about the time that Britney was coming through and sort of having her first few hits. And so my entire adult life, she's kind of been there in the background. And whilst I'm not a big proponent for celebrity news, because I think it's quite invasive a lot of the time, which is something that this book shows actually, I've always been sort of dimly aware in the background, because you can't really avoid some of the stories that came out. And unfortunately, this kind of confirms some of the things that we thought may have been happening over the years, which makes it quite sad, especially for someone who loved what they were doing. They loved the music and loved the dance, and how the industry and the expectations and the people around us sort of crushed that. There's a lot of themes of control in here as well. It's well worth a listen. It's about 5.5 hours long. I listened to it through my Spotify Premium subscription, as I did a few of these books. Well worth listening to. My biggest criticism is the narration. At times, Michelle Williams does an exceptional job of selling emotion in certain points of the book, whereas other times it feels incredibly flat. And I'm not sure if that's just poor voice direction in terms of the way it was recorded. It's just can be quite inconsistent. When it hits, when certain points hit and you can feel the emotion sort of dripping through the delivery, it's really, really strong and elevates the material. But a lot of it felt quite monotone, for want of a better term. But it's well worth a listen. But then we go on to the next book, and what made the next one is the actual delivery in general. This is a very old book. So this is Frozen Hell by John W. Campbell Jr. And this was narrated by Yuri Lowenthal. So if you don't know who Lowenthal is, he's a highly decorated voice actor, done lots of work in animation, anime dub, video games, so on and so forth. And this is basically the early precursor to the story that became The Thing, that hit cinemas in the it was 1980. Could be slightly wrong with that. Could be a couple of years out. And this is an abridged version of the original story, In fact, I'll rephrase that, sorry. This is the full version. The abridged one was originally released years earlier, but this was found sort of in like a box in Harvard, basically, as people were researching Campbell's life and how much of an impact he had on sci-fi in particular. It's a really interesting story. What I really like about this is that at the start of it, there's like a good hour going into sort of Campbell's history himself, some of the effects that he had on the business, how he ended up where he did, why this never quite saw a release, some advice he gave to some authors. The one that sticks out for me was some advice he apparently gave to Isaac Asimov, which was about how to start a story, and his response was very much, wherever you think you should be starting this story, go forward in your story by a third and start your story there instead, because you're probably starting it too soon. And I don't think that's a bad piece of advice for a lot of stories, to be honest, because a lot seem to waste a bit of time at the beginning with sometimes unnecessary window dressing, for want of a better term. Not always. You can tell this is a rough draft of what became the thing. There is one particular sort of sequence where the sort of alien ship is sort of exploding, and I lost count of the amount of times the word ice was used in like a couple of paragraphs. It was very much the ice melted into the ice, and then the ice exploded into steam, and the ice collapsed. It was very much like that. So it was blatantly something that needed another passing run, which it did get before its re-release as a abridged novel, or novella, I should say. But the voice acting really sold this because of Lowenthal's ability to give individual voices to the entire cast of characters. Really enjoyed it. I think it's one to listen to as an audiobook rather than actually reading, however. So next up is a book that I didn't realise quite how old it was, and that's Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. So, first of all, I've never read Dracula. Please don't come at me with pitchforks, please. I tend not to read that many classics, and again, this is a book that I think if I tried to read I would struggle a little bit with, because of the fact that it's obviously not updated to modern English. I do tend to struggle a little bit with older texts because it loses me at times. But that being said, I can really appreciate how clever the writing is here, as it tries to, or well, it doesn't try, it successfully skirts around issues of sexuality and attraction really cleverly, as it would need to do for the time it was written. I think it's a really good vampire story. There's plenty of stuff in here which, if you've read more modern vampire stuff, you'll be familiar with here. I like the idea of the sort of longer term victim that has an emotional connection to the vampire. It sort of gets drained gradually over time. Well worth a listen, certainly. The narration overall is pretty spot on. There are different voices for a few of the different characters, although there is some overlap with some which can leave you a little bit disorientated at times. But overall, Karen Cass does a really good job narrating this one. And it's only about 3 hours long for the audiobook, so it is well worth a listen, especially if you're into your more old-fashioned, shall we say, vampire stories. The last one I want to talk about, because this was an outstanding audio listen, and that is Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. And this was narrated by Jason Isaacs, who is a reasonably well-known actor who does do a fair amount of voice work and narration now as well. This is one of the Forward collection. It was first published in 2019. Won the Hugo Award for Best Novelette, as well as a number of other awards. And this is really clever, but what really sells this for me is Isaac's performance throughout the entirety of this story. The idea is the Earth was abandoned hundreds of years previously, as it was on the verge, or undergoing at least, ecological collapse. And a group of people who are called the Forebearers, I think, if I remember correctly, set up colonies elsewhere to create their version of perfect humanity. And you don't quite know what that is straight away, but basically where our character comes from is basically just doing a sack with sort of this almost skin, well, more like space suit to sort of keep them moving, and then they can earn their skin. So skin is not something everyone can get. Gender isn't really a thing anymore, or at least not exactly. It is very much implied that there is one gender, and that gender is he. There are no women, there's no people of colour, there's no sexuality, there's no sexual desire where these people have come from. And they've come back to Earth to get some samples so they can recreate basically the stuff that makes skin, because they don't have it available anymore. And the entire story pretty much is the AI in the head of the person that you're kind of reading it from the point of view of, but you never hear things that you say. You only hear what the AI is telling you. So quite often what your speech is going to be is implied. So you get the impression that you're asking questions and the AI is refusing to give you information, or is giving the opinion of itself, or at least its creators, on some of these things. And the only other time you get any interaction is when you meet actual humans on the planet, who are they've reversed the ecological collapse. Earth should at this point be dead, and it isn't. And you have a really interesting story as a person who you kind of are, this mute who doesn't really communicate, or at least not that you can hear in the story, comes to terms with the lies that they've been fed by their overlords. The Earth was destroyed by the people who left, and the people who were left behind had no choice but to fix it. And it's really interesting, and it very much has the sense of what will happen if the self-proclaimed smartest people in the room, who are all into eugenics, so racial purity, all that sort of horrific stuff, go away and create a society. And all those prejudices are built into the AI, which is narrated by Isaacs. And he does an outstanding job of narrating a semi-conscious AI that has disdain for the human race, or what the human race was, or what it actually now is on Earth, and deep-rooted prejudices against people with skin, for a start, any sort of pigment, because when you earn your skin over at the colony, your skin's translucent, it has no hue to it because it doesn't need to protect you from the sun or anything like that. And you hear the exasperation from the AI as the human sort of host is what we could tell expressing ideas of beauty or sexuality or all that sort of stuff, and you can hear the disgust of this is not the perfect human. And just for the narration alone, it's outstanding. There are some moments that did make me burst out laughing at times, but there's a really, really serious sort of talk here about how if we keep plundering the Earth for its resources for profit, it's all going to go horribly wrong. So yeah, that's everything that I've read in the last week. Like I say, for me personally, the highlight is the last title, which is Emergency Skin. Brain went completely dead then, which I really, really did enjoy. Well, that's my thoughts of what I've read this month. We're now on, or at the time this video goes up, we will be beginning to read what you own month. I'd love to know what you're reading over the next few months. Let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you next time.